And I have recently joined, actually, I guess 3.5 months back, I joined Doctor. And apart from that, I'm a Docker captain as well. So I was selected as a Docker captain for my contribution to the Docker community. Then I am a WTM ambassador as well. So this is really very interesting, actually, this WTM ambassador. So this is Tech Makers Ambassador, okay? So here also I can see when it comes to women participation in these kind of tech events, so it's really very less. So that only we are trying to increase, like how we can like basically try getting more women into tech communities and tech events. Then I'm an international speaker as well. I have been to multiple countries where I have talked on like multiple DevOps and SRE related tools. And I'm a Lyft scholar as well. So if you guys are students, this Lyft scholarship is really very interesting. Getting a free course and on Kubernetes or CNCF tools, and you'll be getting a free voucher as well for Kubernetes certifications. So you can explore that as well. So this was all about me. I would like to hand over the mic to my co-speaker.
Good evening, everyone. I'm still expecting more energy from Nepal, especially.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you. So before I start who I am, so the main I would like to say like the only thing I came here. It's my first international talk. I would like to say, and I'm happy to say that I'm starting it from Nepal, from a beautiful country. Thank you. So usually I see reels. Most of the time I spent on Instagram, where most of the times I see mountains. But for the first time I have seen with my own eyes instead of on social media. So myself, Rajaram. So I'm a community builder for another cloud for AWS. And I'm also an cloud advocate. Like I work with the FinOps company. So where we do a lot of integrating, provisioning the infrastructure I mean building the strong network and having more security related implementing more security things. And then we also do a FinOps operations like for the doing the cost optimization. It's not always, it's just kind of a full package, I can say. Like it's not just one thing we were doing on one thing. And so that's and as Rajni said, like I'm also a Lyft scholar. So this is one interesting part. If you cannot spend more amount on buying a voucher for an exam or something else, so you can just go to the CNCF website and where you can register yourself. And it's across the world. It will be opened every year. So you can just provide like what made you to bring into the CNCF and then what you want to learn. So that way you can have a course as well as the certification where you get a great learning from a Kubernetes perspective and also the Kubernetes, most of the things. And that's it all about me. So let's move further, like what we are going to talk about the today's talk. So in agenda, we'll be talking all about the shift left. So this shift left, we keep on, I keep on repeating the same terminology. So I'll just explain you what exactly the shift left, and then the container security and the challenges which in the Docker, like how you are going to implement it before deploying it into a production. And then the problem statements, we will take a real-time problem statement of what exactly it is, like what happens if you don't do a security check before deploying it. And then we also talk about the architecture key components, and then the best part, like Rajani will be giving a demo on that. And then so the best part is how we can build a secured container, secured image. So that's all about the session we are going to talk here today. So before we talk about here, see, I like see here I can see that most of them are students, but the working professionals usually they hear a lot of the things about what are we write even a single line of code, right? It's all about writing a code without having a vulnerabilities. Okay, so it's not about how many lines of code you have written. It's all about how many. It's all about zero free vulnerability. So that's all about. I would like to say that. So basically, 90% of the container images will be, production will contain vulnerabilities. So usually the person who writes the code, he might not be known like what exactly what kind of a vulnerability he is having it. So it's basically the what kind of a vulnerability is pulling it from the internet, and then what kind of a vulnerabilities which has been contained for this libraries. So let's talk about in detail about what exactly it is. So this is the one real-time story. I would like to say like which we have seen not in my current organization definitely. So it was one of our companies. Friends company like who was working there. So it was a startup. So it's a more of a fintech company. So which is a banking related company. Like they do how I would like to say. So they have a developer team and the operational team. Okay. So what it has been done, a person has written the code and then he said that the code has been updated, please deploy it, okay? And then these guys have deployed it, and so the interesting part is they do not, due to budget constraints or whatever it may be, so they do not have more of a tools where they can scan it, okay? And the person who is doing it, so he just deployed because he don't know what exactly the code has been written. Someone he got instruction just to deploy it, so he just did the deploy it. Okay. So what happened? A result here there was not even a single security check has been validated here. Okay. So what happened here? Like the code which has been usually when we talk about the Docker, so all the dependencies and the libraries which you are using it for running that Docker. So what happens here is like when we are pulling the one a library which has a vulnerability, right? So he doesn't know like there is a security check that it has not been passing, right? So what happens? He'll just go and deploy it. So what happens? Like this is the one scenario where attackers keep on trying because they know how exactly they want to pitch into a vulnerable image, right? So vulnerable, whichever is a vulnerable CV is. So they know how to get into it. So they'll keep scanning from the entire internet, and they will get to know that someone is using this library. Okay. Intentionally, they don't know that it was their company, someone's company, but they always focus on the dependencies which they are using over there. Okay. So in that case, what happens? He found that someone is using this vulnerable image. So that way he knows that the gates are open, and then he just go and get. He knows how to get the complete application down, right? So once you get it down, so what happens as a result? So the application is down, so customers could not able to access the application. So it might be a lot of time, I can say. It might be hours. Sometimes it's not just about the hours. Sometimes it's also if some company has been vulnerable or someone has been, it has been a breach, right? So it's all over the internet. So it's not just about the breach we are talking about. It's all about the reputation of a company, and it's all about the people who work for the backend to run that application, right? So because there is one lack of security check which hasn't happened, due to which the complete breach happened, and then due to which the cost is getting higher to retrieve your application back. You have to pay some ransomware, right? And at the same time, as soon as, and the more I talk, it's a big story. I can say it has never ending, right? So this is real time. Usually you can we see these kind of bridges everywhere. Most of the day, every day in the internet that someone's application is breached because of the obviously when it is breaching because of the lack of security. That's one point I would like to highlight here. So here, let's take like what happened exactly at the back end, right? So when some real-time example when we are talking about it, here, if you can see this, right? So what incident matters? So here, so someone pushing the code and then the vulnerable, the image which they are using it over there. So it's already which was developed and maybe they have put it long back. Maybe if I say 2015, which they have downloaded the libraries and then they are trying to deploy it in 2025. Which is a now, and what happens here is like they are just the library which they have used that it doesn't the company or whatever the third party which is not providing the security scans or the latest patches is not being provided for the particular library. So what they instead of that what they are saying, they are requesting to update to the latest libraries. Okay, so when we update to the latest libraries, all the security checks, all these things which will be taken care of by the third parties. Third parties is like it can be anything. So that's how we need to deploy the. We have to pull the images or the libraries of the latest libraries or dependencies. And here, so here, what happens like when we do that? So a simple before he deploying it, if he could have kept a single security check that it has to be scanned, right? So that way he'll get to know there are some vulnerabilities which contain on the image or the code. So that way, instead of deploying it directly into the production, so he could have kept this checklist and then it is vulnerable. So he'll stop over there itself and then he'll just go and check what is vulnerable. And then he'll go and fix that. So that way, instead of instead of working at the later part, if you are taking it is in a initial stage, that would save a lot of time, right? So instead of and also the cost is very less when it comes to the production, right? So it's the same code will be deployed in production, but the thing is that it was handled by someone else, like because the security checks was not there, and you have to pay the ransomware and then you have to get it back. So it's the cost, reputation, everything comes into the picture. But whereas if you detect in the early stage, you don't need to bother about all those things. So because you do have a security checklist, and then you will be restricting completely if there is a vulnerability and we are not going to deploy that. And that's all. That's more of insight what happened exactly here. And again here we will be talking about the shift left things. So if I just say what exactly the shift left, right? So I'll just give one example, which it's a kind of a real time example which I have faced it yesterday. So when we come from India to here, right? Usually the Indian SIM doesn't work here, and then we took a Nepal SIM, and then that doesn't comes with the OTP because we didn't install that, because the Paytm, I mean, what do we call apps which we are using it, we are not getting that OTP. So what happens here when we book for a Mount Everest view for a plane ticket, right? So we are not getting a OTP, and then due to which we could not able to make a payment. And somehow we made it possible to run it with a different process for getting a OTP and all. So when we ran it, so we got the payment was successful, but we didn't got a successful message that the ticket has been booked or something else. We don't have a mail that so and so flight is there at so and so time, right? So what happened is I just applied the same shift left operation which we do on a regular basis. I just did the same thing. So what I did, instead of waiting till tomorrow, I mean the early morning before I go to the airport, what I did, I just raised the ticket to the wherever I have purchased the ticket. I just raised the call to the customer care, and then I said this is what happening. Okay. So then what they said, so they have checked the transaction ID and then they have sent me the ticket back. Okay. So this way, what happened to me, like I got the ticket before I reached the airport. So this way, I'm avoiding, like, and I also did what I did in airport, right? So I just asked them that the transaction was not successful. Where should I have to get the ticket? So they said it's not that's not the right place to ask. So I need to raise a complaint on online, right? So if I could have waited till next day morning and reached the airport and I could not able to get into it, so that would take a lot. I mean, it's like kind of a mess which happened in the production, right? It's the same thing which I have applied it earlier. I mean, in my real time. So when I did before itself, and then I got the ticket, and then I was able to fly. So that's one example I would like to say for shift left. So it's the same thing. Whatever you do it in the early stage, not on the later part. So here, when the breach happened, like what happened exactly? So these are the four things I would say that there is no automated scanning. So either manual scanning is not there, and also there is not an automated scanning. And the SBOM is kind of a one full of package. I would say like what exactly the complete content will having, what kind of dependencies are there, what kind of a code has been written. It will have the complete list of things. So there is no SBOM as well.